Thank you. Morgan.
Brings a new angle to Hannibal taking elephants across the Alps, doesn't it? Just to bookend the sort of old folks bit, my first proper computer was a tape-driven Commodore CBM. My first proper business machine was an IBM 3084 mainframe with punch cards in it. And I had my first email 22 years ago, so I've kind of been in this world for a little bit. What I've kind of been... My career, if you can call it that, has always been driven by frustration. I've been an economist and a musician and a social worker and a few other things, but I really sort of started when I was about 25 and I became a journalist. And I worked in trade journalism for a while and eventually scaled the slippery ladder to the Daily Mail. And just got to a point where I remember meeting Stephen Fry, and I was out in California and he'd just absconded from cellmates in the theatre. And I thought, this is a great story, I've got him now. And he spotted me as a journo straight away, and he said, it must be very frustrating writing about other people doing things. And it just got me. And a couple of years later, I just left journalism completely and went to work for Endemol in 2000 to bring Big Brother 1 to the country. So obviously I've been stepping up each way. And sort of with 5 or 6 years at Endemol, my job there was to manage all the interactive production. So for the first couple of years was, we've got a TV show, and we've got a website as well. Big Brother was obviously slightly different because it was born as a multimedia production, but for a lot of the other shows it was very much an appendage. But we did spend a lot of time working with the TV commissioners and with the interactive commissioners in the broadcasters to get a feel for what they wanted as an audience. And as I say, it's born from frustration because a lot of those guys, love them to bits, were still technologists. And they were people who loved the latest widget or had a new gadget they wanted to put out there. And the notion of, well, who's your audience and what are they trying to get from this? And when they exit the TV show, what experience are they lacking that we can fulfill?
And it's haunted.
We spent, I think that's probably what it is actually, is the acoustics.
It's the ghost of Cinerama.
And I, as a sort of, I'm a writer. If I can put my hand up and say I'm very good at one thing, it's writing. And as a writer, I always mourn the loss of words, like moist. You can't use moist anymore. Cleavage used to be a lovely geography term. You can't use that anymore. Grooming was obviously gone for other words. But convergence is the latest one, which is one of those sort of nasty scientific words that everyone thinks they know what it means. And actually, it's a shame to have lost it because it has this great sense of movement. It's not we have converged, it is the process of convergence. And many people, I know, I was chatting with Matt Locke recently about this process. Can we stop that somewhere, please? I don't know if you're preparing our lunch or something. The process of convergence is really just people trying to work together, people who have got specific experience and specific skills and are part of a specific industry trying to find a way of working together. And obviously I've done that within the TV business. And then I went to work at 3, the mobile phone company, to help them become a mobile media company. And so that was the convergence of people who work within talk and text and trying to get their head around how to put video on these things and how do you get games and how do you get the micropayment systems working and where are all these things and converging businesses. And the successful convergence usually grows out of one of two places. One is that you have a mutually beneficial business model, which is a sort of a grand way of saying that you can both make money out of it fairly simply and you get it. And the other one is a process of skills transfer, which is a very difficult, very dangerous process to get into because I know that there are people in the TV community that see the web as being the future and just want to become Web 2.0 gurus, or that they see games as being the future, so they want to get into the gaming environment. And the problem is really it's one of those MBA terms, but it's one of core competency. Each of us as individuals is pretty good at one thing, and we can stretch our comfort zone only so far. We can't jump into another boat and expect to be good at it because someone else will be at least as good as we are. And so the test of convergence is really how far we can stretch what we're already good at into new areas. And it does worry me. I was on a panel much like this in Edinburgh a year or so ago, and someone put their hand up and said, as a TV producer, how do we get to be on the web? And the answer is you don't. There is no automatic entry because a TV producer is a part of the current dominant medium. Doesn't mean you have an automatic golden ticket to the next one. You need to work at it, and you need to understand what you're good at. And what TV producers are incredibly good at, and what technologists typically aren't very good at, is storytelling. And you start to get into a new use of digital media which engages storytelling but may not engage every use. So, for instance, there's no point in a person who's very good at doing the beginning, middle and end piece at getting into the world of saying, well, I'm going to set up a Flickr site, or I'm going to go off and do Twitter, or I'm going to go and do Facebook, because it's not a core skill of theirs. But what you can do is you can recognise those kind of environments, those modern environments, digital environments where people are spending a lot of their time, and you can create stories within that environment. The other thing, which is just to echo what M.T. Rainey was saying before, is this notion of activity and participation. We found, I've probably done about 60 or 80 TV shows, if you see what I mean, interactive TV shows. And the Big Brother, we get up to about 18-20% interactivity of the audience, of the 4.5 million people who watch the TV show. About 1.6 million are online. But for the most part, the most you can hope is about 10%. And I heard an interesting stat fairly recently from someone at MySpace, which is that of anyone on MySpace at the moment, of those 100 people that are on there, 1% are making something on their site, 9% are voting or commenting on it, and 90% are just wandering. And it has that sit-back approach. There's a bit of us as human beings that just likes to watch somebody else's story. And so anyone that says that the future of media, whatever that means, is that we will all be active participants is not true. It may be that at some point in our cycle we activate our participation, but 90% of the time we just want to read what someone else has done, or watch what someone's doing, or just passively engage with it. And I did a talk a little while ago where I had a big picture of Lauren Cooper, you know, the Catherine Tate, Am I Bothered star, who seems very much like Charlie from Big Brother, which is worrying. And the question was, could Catherine Tate have broken on YouTube? And I think the answer is yes. I think Catherine Tate didn't need a TV broadcaster in a year or two's time to become bigger and better. She would have got a couple of people to do the production for her. She would have got onto YouTube. She would have got millions and millions of hits. She would have got a better theatrical agent deal. She would have got a better deal when she did get onto the TV. But the question is, Lauren Cooper herself, who's now, 14, 15 years old, in 10 years' time, what will she be doing? I mean, she's a character, but as I say, she is a bit like Charlie from Big Brother. So in 10 years' time, will she, when she comes back from work at 6 o'clock and picks the kids up and makes the tea and sits down, will she be going looking for Mortal Kombat tunes on YouTube? She probably won't. She'll still need channels. And so this is the long way round of me getting to the frustrations that I've had, because as a producer, I spend a lot of time knocking on the doors of Yahoo and Lycos and Vodafone and Orange and Three and all these guys, trying to get them to think like commissioners, trying to get them to think like broadcasters, only to realise there wasn't actually anyone on the other side of that door. And so I went to work at Three for a couple of years, and from the beginning of next week, I'm starting with an ad agency called the Engine Group. And I believe that actually advertising is an aspirational career again. I think we're back at the place where everyone is expecting the brands to help out on business models and to reduce the complexity of having to pre-fund our productions and to move away from this sort of cost plus 10-20% margin thing, which means that the brands and the agencies in particular have this opportunity to go out and commission new content, new experiences, new digital worlds on behalf of their brands. And whereas it's a real struggle to imagine Yahoo or AOL or any of those guys having the editorial nous to come to you and choose between one person's 26-part drama series and another person's, it's not a flight of imagination to imagine that a brand agency and the brand management behind that will be able to make those kind of editorial decisions. So the frustrations that have driven me to where I am now is that I do believe that brands and the people who manage those brands are the future commissioners and will become the future broadcasters.